Ladies and gentlemen, senseis from across the globe, it is finally time. You have all been cordially invited to attend the Gehenna party as our beautiful, elegant, adorable student wife daughter, whichever she is to you, will be putting on a piano performance of a lifetime as her banner will be arriving to Blue Archive Global this Tuesday alongside Swimsuit Hoshino's rerun banner. So take a seat, have a drink, and enjoy her angelic voice, cause here is a short review of Dress Hina. Gehenna's fearsome, ruthless head prefect has become an adorable, gorgeous cinnamon roll as our Hiniature now looks positively stunning and refined. Her silky white hair that has been slightly rolled up into a bun, her beautiful purple dress and ensemble, which not only fits her color scheme but also gives her a captivating appearance, and her cute, shy expression praying that she looks good in front of Sensei, the person she loves, while eagerly hoping for a compliment. So make sure you pamper her, Hina bros. Even though some people were not blown away when she was first announced, I think I can honestly say that most senseis are excited for her to see Hiniature actually enjoying herself and relaxing, and she definitely deserves it after knowing how much stress she's under every day and having had enough of Makoto's tomfoolery. Though now, she's got some competition with the announcement of Battle Hoshino as the 3.5 anniversary unit, which begets the questions. Who'd win? The strongest lolly of today or the strongest lolly in history? The fluffiest student in Kivotos or the crunchiest of them all? Questions that need no more answering cause they have gone from rivals in strength to good friends, though they might still compete with each other for Sensei's hand in marriage. Finally, before I move on, if you haven't heard, Dress Hina's singing voice is amazing, and Ryo Hirahashi, the voice actor, did an excellent job. She is a limited explosive DPS striker with elastic armor and has the following terrain affinities: D in urban, A in field, and S indoors. She also uses these equipment, which is almost typical of the standard DPS equipment set, but she rocks badge instead of pin, giving her much more survivability with lots of extra HP and a little added evasion and recovery boost. Let's talk about Dress Hina's skills, starting with her 6-cost EX, where she plays the piano and hits us with a smile as bright as the sun. First, Hina goes into a concentrated firing stance, which lasts for 10 seconds. And in this state, Hina cannot perform normal attacks, nor can she move. Plus, CC effects may cancel her stance. Her EX skill will also change for the next 3 users, having a 0 cost, and they will immediately be redrawn upon each use. The first skill card, or the first shot, let's call it the first melody, deals damage to enemies in a straight line, with the damage decreasing by 45% for each subsequent enemy it pierces, up to a minimum of 10% of the original damage. This attack will also always deal the maximum damage, ignoring stability values. I will explain what stability is later on in this video, and this shot will increase the remaining duration of the concentrated firing stance to 10 seconds. The second shot, or the second melody, is the same as the first melody, and the third shot, or the final melody, is also the same except it deals more damage and ends the concentrated firing state. Her basic skill increases her explosive effectiveness and accuracy at the start of battle, but the skill only activates once per battle. Her enhanced skill boosts her attack and crit rate, while her sub-skill increases her explosive effectiveness and makes her immune to taunt when in the concentrated firing stance. At UA 40, her enhanced skill plus grants her additional attack and crit stats, while at UA 50, her indoor combat power improves from S to SS. Lots of people have been raving and hyping up Dress Hina over the past few weeks, and for good reason, as she is currently the strongest raid DPS striker in the game, due to a number of reasons. First and foremost, she has an extremely powerful EX skill, but what makes it so strong? Well, for one, it has very good multipliers. At max level EX, the first and second shots have a 618% multiplier, and the final shots multiplier is as high as 1288%. So altogether, she has a combined damage multiplier of 2528% spread across all 3 shots, which is much higher than even Azusa's max level EX. Not only that, her EX's activation is actually pretty fast, i.e. the rate at which she fires these shots. Each shot takes only around 1 to 2 seconds, and as you can see, it's like rapid fire shots, allowing her to deal tons of damage in quick succession. Next, her EX is actually kind of an AoE attack, since it is able to deal damage to multiple enemies in a straight line, though the damage does fall off quite a lot the more enemies it hits. And by the time it hits the third enemy, the damage would be at 10% of the original damage. Cause remember, its damage decreases by 45% for each additional enemy it hits, up to a minimum of 10%. So the first enemy will receive 100% damage, second would receive 55%, and the third enemy onwards will take only 10% of the original damage. It kinda works like Haruna's EX skill, except the latter's damage is reduced by 10% for each subsequent enemy it hits, up to a minimum of 30%. Nevertheless, Dress Hina's EX still does count as an AoE attack, and she can be quite useful for mobbing content. Aside from that, the shots that she fires are zero cost. While the initial activation of her EX to make her go into concentrated stance is pretty expensive at 6 costs, though you can overcome this with cost reduction EX skills to make it only 3 costs, the shots themselves do not cost anything, so you can use them while letting your cost meter recover in order to use your other unit's EX skills if needed after using up all her shots. Or you may also use other units' EX skills during her stance and still be able to use her shots since they don't cost anything, though you might have to be quick about it, otherwise she will come out of her stance if you take too long and you'll be losing damage. The last and main reason her EX is really strong is the fact that it ignores all stability modifiers, allowing her to always deal maximum damage, and it will always be the highest it can be. Before that, for those of you who don't know, stability essentially affects a student's damage variance, i.e. the higher a student's stability, the closer their damage floor is to their damage ceiling, increasing their chances of dealing more damage closer to the maximum damage. So, for example, in this picture, with low stability, the further the minimum damage is from the maximum damage, and the chances of the student dealing more damage is lower. Meanwhile, with high stability, the closer the damage floor is to the damage ceiling, thus increasing their chances of dealing more damage. Not exactly max damage, but higher damage closer to the maximum damage they can deal. Got it? I hope all that makes sense. Now, with Dress Hina, take all that knowledge and dump it in the bin, cause Dress Hina's EX bypasses all of that stability shit and she is guaranteed to deal the maximum damage. Though, you will still need to worry about crit molding. And in my opinion, this is the strongest aspect of her EX skill, as it allows her to deal tons and tons of damage. But who am I kidding? The best and most powerful part of her EX is seeing that beautiful smile, capable of melting even the coldest of hearts and beating down the hardest of bosses. With all that being said, her EX does have 2 downsides. One, CC effects can cancel her firing stance, so anything other than taunt, like fear, stun, confusion, and etc. can cause her to break out of her stance. Thus, you will lose her EX for that instance and miss out on potential damage. Not only that, her EX's AoE is really small and narrow, and you can easily miss the enemy if you aren't careful, so you gotta aim properly, and it's dependent entirely on your skill. The second reason why Dress Hina is the strongest raid DPS striker is because of her other skills, all of which greatly contribute to her damage output, and they synergize well with her EX. First off, her basic skill, which is able to permanently increase her explosive effectiveness and accuracy, while it only activates once at the very start of battle. However, these buffs have no duration, meaning they will last for the course of the entire battle. These buffs are no slouch either, as at max level basic skill, she receives a permanent 65% EE boost and her accuracy is increased by 451, with the former further upping her already high damage and the latter improving her viability against enemies with high evasion, such as Greg, Cheese, or the Black Ranger. Next, her sub skill, which also provides her with additional EE whenever she uses her EX, further granting her an extra 63.5% EE, so combine this together with her basic skill and she will have around 130% explosive effectiveness during her EX, which is no joke since this will massively boost her EX's damage. Her sub also makes her immune to taunt, which is particularly useful especially in Kaiten Phase 1. Finally, her Enhanced Skill and Enhanced Skill Plus at UE40 increase her attack and crit rate, which not only amplifies her attack, but it can also help with any crit modding issues. Other than all those, she has 3 additional benefits. For one, she is one of only 3 striker units to wear elastic armor, meaning she isn't weak to anything since there isn't any content so far that have enemies with sonic attack. So she will take 1 times damage from piercing and mystic attack types, and 0.5 times damage from explosive, further improving her survivability. Secondly, she has the advantage of being good in 2 terrains, field and indoors, making her usable in more content. Thirdly, she is a machine gun character, so her attack is naturally much higher. As the best raid DPS striker, Dress Hina is used in almost any raid content, though she is mainly used in raids and specific joint firing drills. But I have personally brought her into scrimmages and stuff to help me out. In these content, she is primarily used as the main hyper carry, where her role is simple: deal big damage and absolutely annihilate the boss, thanks to her many self buffs and extremely high damage. And when further buffed by meta buffers like Akko and Himari, her damage output goes through the roof, as she is capable of destroying any raid armored boss. Plus again, like I mentioned, she can be brought into field and indoor terrain raids. While her EX is an AoE attack, making her useful for mobbing like in missions and whatnot, however, she is much more suited to be a boss killer instead due to the damage drop off when hitting more than one enemy. Though again, that's not to say you cannot use her to clear out a few mobs. Also, in a lot of these raids, you would preferably want her to be UE40/UE50, especially in the higher difficulties like Insane and Torment, since her damage output will be greatly increased and her survivability is also improved, allowing you to get past the raid easier and potentially one-teaming certain raids even on Torment difficulty. I'm unsure if 3 to 4 star or even UE30 Dress Hina would be enough for the higher difficulties. I've personally mostly seen people just bring UE40/UE50 Dress Hina, but you might be able to get away with it on Insane and below, but not Torment, though again, I'm unsure. Besides, in my opinion, you would want to get her to UE40 or ideally UE50 if you can, because it will be an extremely good investment, especially since she is one of the top damage dealers in the game. Dress Hina sees quite a lot of use in the Kaiten raid, where she can be used in both phases to blitz through the rangers and the robot. For phase 1, you can use her EX to pierce through 2 rangers at once, sometimes maybe even 3 if you get them in their formation and depending on Hina's position. The first ranger will take the brunt of the damage, while the second ranger will take reduced damage, though she will still be able to melt them. Not only that, she is immune to the raid ranger's taunt during her EX. So if you want to use it, you have to make sure that she's already in concentrated firing stance, because if not, she can still be taunted when not in her firing stance, and you won't be able to activate her EX. She is also used in phase 2 against the robot, where her EX will be extremely helpful in quickly taking out the robot parts. causing him to become groggy and dealing tons of damage to him. There's a whole strat I've seen to clear the raid faster on Insane or below, where you time her EX near the end of phase 1, use up the first 2 shots to finish off the rangers, so when you enter phase 2, she will have the 3rd shot ready, which she can use to immediately fill Kaitan's groggy meter if you're lucky. But again, I feel like this can be crit moldy, since I've seen some people pull it off and some people don't. And in my opinion, it's more of a pro strat done by players competing for high scores. Regardless, with UE40 to UE50 dress Hina, again, unsure about 3 to 4 star, you will most likely be able to one-team Insane Kaitan, though for Torment, you will more than likely need 2 or more teams, and she's unable to one-team it due to how much health the Rangers and Robot have, with most people borrowing dress Hina for a second team on this difficulty. Nevertheless, dress Hina's best use lies against Hyro, who has become her literal punching bag and target practice. Poor dude. She excels in this raid where her role is to absolutely annihilate him, especially in the indoors version, to the point where when she first released in JP, completing Hyro Torment didn't guarantee you top 20k, which is, by the way, platinum rank in JP, not 10k, due to the sheer amount of people who were kicking his ass in one team on Torment using her. However, there are obviously some caveats to this. A. She needs to be minimum UE50, and in my opinion, UE40 won't be enough cause the improved indoor terrain affinity will be very much needed. You can still do it with UE40, for example the GOAT Cenovid did do it in one team with UE40 dress Hina in these 2 videos, but you will most likely need a lot of RNG. B. You will of course need to pair her with the proper units. The usual lineups most players use are dress Hina as the hyper carry, a healer like Kokona, Swimsuit Hoshino for her extra EE buff and the cost recovery boost, defense debuffers like Azusa, Nagisa or Swimsuit Shiroko, and buffers such as Himari, dress Ako, and Nyuya Fuka. There are obviously outliers like this team by Cenovid again, who used Onsen Shigure as the healer and Swimsuit Hanako as the defense down debuffer. But overall, these are some of the main units used alongside dress Hina to one-team this raid on Torment, and who you use depends on the units you have. All in all, using her makes it easier to one-team this raid on not just Torment but Insane as well. Though, as usual, you can't just willy-nilly walk in there with dress Hina and expect it to be a walk in the park, since you'll need to factor in a lot of stuff like the other units you bring into this raid and their level, your timing and skill, the raid's mechanics like healing the urn to make sure Hyro takes more damage, RNG like getting high crit rolls, and etc. Finally, dress Hina is also very useful in Gregorius, as she can deal tons of damage to him by using her EX to hit multiple choir members. Since the choir members are usually positioned in a row, it makes it much easier to hit them, though her EX's damage falloff is quite significant starting from the 3rd choir member. Regardless, you can use her EX to hit a few of the choir members right in front of Greg, and when the mobs on the side appear, if you aim properly, you can actually hit 5 of them. In this raid, you will also be able to one-team him on Insane. Unsure about Torment since when his Grand Assault came out, Torment was yellow armor, but again, you'd of course need to bring in the proper units to debuff Greg, and you need to know the raid's mechanics. She can be used in other raid armored raids, for example raid Wakamo Hovercraft to get past Wakamo herself and the Hovercraft. Not to mention, being a MG unit, she can also help build up the incoming damage debuff on the Hovercraft. However, I personally wouldn't recommend bringing her into urban terrain raids, like Urban Hyro or Raid Urban Shirokuro or Raid Urban Bina, as her mood in that particular terrain is bad, so her damage becomes worse. Nevertheless, you might still be able to use her in Insane or lower difficulties for these urban raids, though probably not Torment. Aside from that, dress Hina is also used quite a bit in Fury of Set, where she is mostly used as a second DPS alongside units like Ban Kazusa and Ban Yoshimi, with the latter being able to deal way higher damage in this raid compared to dress Hina, and you use Hina's EX to burst the raid ball and deal damage to him. Overall, in my opinion, Dress Hina is a must-pull unit, as she is currently the best raid DPS striker in the game, who is used in most raid content due to how strong she is. And she would definitely give you a much easier time in these content. But should you go for UE 40 to UE 50 Dress Hina? In my humble opinion, yes. You should try to go for UE 50 or at the very least UE 40, cause her damage output greatly increases at these two levels, which is very useful especially for harder difficulty content. And personally, I believe that investing into fast students are always a worth it investment. Plus hey, even if you don't get extra copies of Dress Hina, you'll be getting a ton of Eligma just by pulling on the third Anniv banners. So why not use them to get more of her Alefs from the shop? Speaking of which, another reason why you should pull for Dress Hina is because 6% drop rate for 3-star units. So it's the perfect time to pull and get new 3-star characters including the previous fast units, whose drop rates are also increased. Though remember, this double drop doesn't apply to Dress Hina herself. Other than that, Dress Hina is limited, so the only time she'll return is next year. And I mean, come on, you're telling me you don't want to see this cutie patootie play the piano for you in her EX animation and L2D? However, should you pull for her or Swimsuit Hoshino, the other banner character? Well, if you already have Swimsuit Hoshino, then just go for Dress Hina obviously. But for beginners and Swimsuit Hoshino non-havers, in my opinion, I personally recommend you prioritize Swimsuit Hoshino instead, as she is a great buffer who is incredibly flexible and can be used in a lot of content, helping newbies get through low level missions and whatnot, and being a vital unit even for a bunch of endgame content. This is because she is an EE/attack buffer, a cost recovery unit, and kind of a tank as well, all combined into one. So I'd say Swimsuit Hoshino is a bit more of a priority if you don't have her. Regardless, you may pull for Dress Hina if you just prefer her instead, plus if you're able to, try and go for both, cause the two of them are really strong and I wouldn't say skip either of them. And remember, Swimsuit Hoshino has double drop rate too, so you can pull on Dress Hina's banner and have a chance to get Swimsuit Hoshino. And that's all for this week's review. In keeping with the previous fast video, I didn't include Swimsuit Hoshino cause I wanted the focus to be on Dress Hina, so apologies for that. A few gentle reminders: there will be 6% drop rate when Dress Hina's banner arrives, so make sure to go all out on it, until pity if you can /want to, cause you'll be guaranteed a Dress Hina/Swimsuit Hoshino at 200 pulls. Plus, it's such a great opportunity to get new 3 stars, as well as previous fast units, and a whole bunch of Eligma. So this is excellent, especially for newbies. Also, the double drop rate applies to all 3-star units and all fast students, but not Dress Hina. By the time this video is out, we should have gotten almost all free 100 pulls, so remember to use them on Dress Akko and Makoto banners, as they do not carry over to Dress Hina's banner. Anyways, that's all from me. Good luck with your pulls. Hina bros, I hope y'all are enjoying this event, cause seeing Chibi Hina heals the soul, specifically when she Hong Shmis, and I'll see y'all in the next one.